What is up, guys? Nick Script, P2W Fantasy Podcast. I have an underdog draft underway here. We have the Chihuahua Superflex edition. I think I did the Chihuahua last week, one quarterback. This is a little bit different. So I figured after work, just got home. Let's go live. Let's draft. Let's get it.
To win, no fear to give. I feel, but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, yeah, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, yeah, I play to win. I play to win, yeah, I play to win. I play to win, oh, play to win. I play to win, yeah, I play to win. I play to win.
All right, so hopefully, starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What spot am I in? I have the 12, so I'm going back to back here. This will be interesting to see how the quarterbacks go. Obviously, it changes the value there. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes off the board. This is the tournament info. We got good prizes. Use P2W Fantasy if you are not signed up. And roster, 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end. Super flex. Good to go. So, straight away off the board, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Jackson, Burrow. I'm in a rougher spot just because, I might miss 11 quarterbacks straight away, but we'll see. I'm sure somebody will jump off and grab, there we go, Justin Jefferson. Would love to have like a Lawrence Watson stack. If that were to fall to me, I think that'd be pretty decent there. Herbert goes. Fields, got a couple picks. So right now, I'd like to double stack. It'd be awesome if like Lawrence Watson fell to me. Not going to happen there. So I might just be the one guy that goes different here. Maybe I go like Chase. There goes Chase. If Watson goes, I feel like I'm in a little bit of trouble here. So I do like Deshaun Watson a lot. Talked about him recently. He's in the draft guide in a specific section. You're talking about a guy in his full seasons was top 5 in all 3 of those full seasons. He's a guy who's shown us some passing yard upside on the ground. I really like the system being built around him. And now we got to think about our next move here. Could be interesting and go Kelsey. At that spot, it's super flex. Do I grab a Tua or a Richardson? Dak, I feel like I can wait. This might be a little spicy, but I'm gonna go Travis Kelsey just because last season he was a man amongst boys with the statistical advantages he had him, when it came to targets, fantasy points per game, receiving yards, the consistency of all of those things with Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl run was far worth it for me. I could have went Tua. I do like Tua a lot. I just feel like Kelsey's going to have another very Kelsey year. He didn't look like he was taking a step backwards at all with him aging, and they didn't add anybody significant. I mean, they drafted Raji Rice, Kadarius Toney, hopefully healthy. People like Sky Moore. I don't. Kelsey's just the alpha with the quarterback one in terms of talent. I like Tua. People are worried about him in the concussions. I think Tua did a great job of just putting the ball into his playmakers' hands. Obviously, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, 2 of the best at yards after the catch, and he did a good job of doing that. And he showed us some passing yard and passing touchdown upside. Christian McCaffrey obviously was great in San Francisco. He probably is going to have a little bit more of a split than people want with Elijah Mitchell if Mitchell's healthy, but McCaffrey with the pass catching and the creative usage is just one of the safest running backs, even in a backfield that he doesn't have, a 25 touch role necessarily in, because he really doesn't need it. I'm a bit concerned with Eckler for the first time ever. I've been an Eckler fan for a very long time. I've boosted the guy, got his jersey, signed helmet. I think his target ceiling, if Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Quentin Johnston are all in the field, is not as great as it was last year. Cooper Kupp, I thought about. He was phenomenal, obviously, in fantasy when he was on the field last year. He only played, 9 games, but the points per game was great. I might be in trouble. Because the quarterbacks are just flying off the board here. So this is my first Superflex draft. And straight away, I think the learning point for me is I should have went and grabbed 2 quarterbacks right away, because it looks like everybody's grabbing quarterbacks. And we're going to get to a point in the draft where, do I take a Kenny Pickett? Do I take, I don't know, CJ Stroud later on, or am I taking one of these elite wide receivers? So we'll see how the draft board falls to us. I think with this, the important thing always is, 1, play the board. Number 2, pick up what falls to you. It's good to have a draft strategy, I think, with any sort of draft, redraft, dynasty, best ball, but everything's different. I talked about that on Twitter recently about, I think Derrick Henry was one example. There was a few other ones. I think Trey Lance was another example of just guys that are a bit polarizing when it comes to certain drafts, and the difference draft to draft it could be to where they come off the board. Third round, you're getting A.J. Brown. Great value just because of the quarterbacks pushing everybody down. I mean, CeeDee Lamb right now is sitting here at pick 3-3. That's great. I mean, I know it's super flex, and I know we have to play the quarterback position heavily, but, you're taking Aaron Rodgers over CeeDee Lamb. I guess that's the nature of the tournament right now. So it's a learning point for me, heading into this draft. Jared Goff, after Adams, pretty close there. Looking at the board, JT still sitting there. There's just so much value with these other positions just because of everybody jumping on the quarterback. But, it could be good for me because maybe I can smash two great picks here. I can go I don't know. Do I go like JT and Saquon and just totally lock up running back? Do I go, could I go Garrett Wilson and Jalen Waddle and just really look great everywhere besides quarterback? It's risky, but we'll see what we have when it falls down to us. I'm moving this computer. I got a new setup here. You can see great scenery of the stairs back here. I'll have to figure out the background as it goes. Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor off the board. I mean, end of the third, great values just because of the impact of the quarterback position. Do I just lock up Russell Wilson, I guess? It's kind of gross. I mean, I could completely fade quarterback. Super risky doing that. A lot of talent at wide receiver. Olave, Devonta Smith, Higgins, DK, Calvin Ridley. These are all guys that have top 12 upside. Do I grab 2 of those guys? I don't know. It's tough. Derek Carr, Jordan Love, Stafford. A lot of question marks. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, the young guys. Sam Howell, the more young guys. Might be a learning point here, but I think I'm going to fade. I think I might fade quarterback just because I feel like it's kind of shitty guys left. We'll go with Devonta Smith. Had a great season. He seems like he's in the shadows sometimes just because of how awesome A.J. Brown is, and he can win you a week. But Devonta Smith had a really, really nice season. Olave, Higgins. I might go, and now I'm going to go Saquon. And my spicy ranking was that I had Saquon for redraft running back 1. Chip on the shoulder, complete workhorse role. They added to the team a bit as far as the pass catchers go. Darren Waller, I think, was a huge addition if he can stay healthy. Drafted Hyatt. Paris Campbell apparently is looking good in camp. Nothing outstanding for the wide receiver position added. Wan'Dale Robinson is a guy I like the most from a dynasty perspective out of the wide receiver group, but I don't know what his timeline is from a health perspective. But Saquon is in an offense that was good last year. They surprised a lot of people. They won games that people didn't think that they would win. Had a little bit of a playoff run. Daniel Jones had a career season. Brian Dable just looked like the right hire. And I think Saquon, kind of having, again, the chip on the shoulder saying, I want the bag, I want money. It could be a big year for him. I mean, what you want out of a fantasy running back is what Saquon Barkley can give you. I really like Nick Chubb, and I'm well above consensus on Nick Chubb as well this season. Nick Chubb has been extremely efficient as a runner for years now consistently. Talking about a guy that just racks up yards and gets tons of opportunities. He has been the Browns offense, and I think it's a benefit to him that Deshaun Watson will have now a full season ahead here, because I think they want to open up the passing game in Cleveland. And I think, with Amari Cooper having a great year last year, he had 9 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards receiving, adding Elijah Moore, who I like a lot, to the team, David Njoku with that athleticism, Donovan Peoples-Jones stresses the field, Cedric Tillman. You have a core that looks good for the passing game now. They want to open it up. That's going to benefit Nick Chubb even more. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this Cleveland offense is pretty solid this year. Watson has a great year, and Nick Chubb benefits on no Kareem Hunt, which sometimes is overhyped, but just benefits of being in scoring positions a lot, and also not having the complete defensive focus on him like it's been in Cleveland under Baker Mayfield and the guys of the recent. Josh Jacobs, I feel like he's going pretty late in some drafts that I've seen. Not late where he's like the running back 15, but I don't think anybody's really valuing Josh Jacobs anywhere near to what he was last season. Ramondre Stevenson soon after that. I could just, for the quarterback position, if we're looking at my team, got Watson, Saquon Barkley, then I got Devonta Smith and Travis Kelce. I got like an anchor, I guess, for all of my positions. How that's going to look in the end, we'll see. But I think one of the good things about these sort of drafts, I should have had my promo code fucking on here. There it is. I think one of the good things about these drafts is that they are low cost and you can enter plenty of these contests. I mean, if it's $4, which I think this was, you could enter 4 of them for what, $16, and I think it could be worth your dollar just because they do have big prizes. But the more you do these, the more you get a sense of where guys are going, and putting in the reps gives you, again, each draft's different, a little bit of a roster diversity. But also, I think, once you get a sense of how they start going, your teams might get better and better as you pick up on, hey, you know what, at this point, I really need to, I'm going to miss out on this, or I need to make sure I can be able to pivot to something like this. So we're going to be a little sketchy at quarterback. I like that we have Watson on the board still. Running backs, still a lot of value. I mean, Dobbins is a guy I like a lot. He's down the list. Christian Watson's a good best ball wide receiver. I don't know about at that spot above Calvin Ridley. That's insane to me. I would not take Christian Watson over Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Jerry Jeudy, Drake London. There's a lot of guys that wouldn't take him off of or take him over. Will he have big receiving days? I'm sure he will. I mean, he is a high upside wide receiver, but I don't think he is going to be consistent to the degree that he needs to go above those wide receivers. No one's really biting too much on the tight end position. I think just Kelce, who I took, and Hockenson went. A lot of value at wide receiver. Running back, you scroll down the list. I like DeAndre Swift down there. Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to land somewhere and still get work. I think we can totally wait on running back. We locked up who I think could be or have the upside to be the running back 1. Hockenson just went. Najee just went. Najee after the bye, it needs to be said more often that Najee after the bye week last year, the numbers were much better. If that's, if you want to pinpoint it to the foot, if you want to pinpoint it to the, the competition, whatever the case is, he was better. I want to say he was more healthy, but oof, man. Jerry Jeudy just went. That's my guy. I think Jerry Jeudy has the upside to be like wide receiver 12 this year. I'm not going to rank him there. I'm not going to be overly spicy just because it's my guy, but love Calvin Ridley. I just got sniped back to back here. Jerry Jeudy and Calvin Ridley are 2 of my guys. I would have taken one of them 1,000%. Quarterbacks here, I might just grab one because I only have one. I think I'm going to go, I might do something a little sketchy right here. Bryce Young, running backs. I don't need to for sure take somebody. Keenan Allen, I like a lot. People are speaking on that hammy injury, though. It might be stupid. It might be stupid to do this. It's a super flex. I just went back to back the two rookies, the number 1 and the number 2 pick. So I went and I took. Ooh, there we go. Let's see. I went Bryce Young and then CJ Stroud. Is it a good spot to take them? I don't know, but it's almost getting to the point where there's no quarterbacks left. And now I have Deshaun Watson, who I'm very high on Deshaun Watson. I think I had him like quarterback 7. I missed out on the rest of the quarterbacks because I pivoted and took Kelsey at that 2-1 spot. I locked in a wide receiver and a running back. We'll see how the rest of the draft falls, but I felt like I needed to grab, some sort of depth at the quarterback position, and other people have it. There's other guys on there. Maybe I could have waited for like a Trey Lance, but let's take the 2 rookies and hope that one of them hits this year. Madison going way too high. I was an early guy to talk about Alexander Madison and talk about how, the numbers were good when he was given the opportunity. If you looked at the averages he had of like rushing yards, receptions, fantasy points, when he was getting 50% plus of the work, the numbers were good. But I think people fail to understand that, and people shit on Dalvin Cook all the time, but Alexander Madison is not Dalvin Cook at the end of the day. He's not as good of a talent. He's done well with the opportunities, but we're really looking at small sample sizes. I think people really want to chase like, hey, like this guy, if only he got the opportunity, he'd be amazing. And Madison, I don't think would be or will be bad if he does indeed get this full workload that people are really banking on right now. But to go above Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Aaron Jones, I mean, people are sleeping on him big time. DeAndre Swift. We got how many picks here? I thought I told you 12 picks away. So, yeah, well, look, I mean, I feel like there's 2 points in this draft I can already reflect on and say, hey, maybe I didn't need to do that. Maybe I didn't need to take Kelsey at the 2-1, even though I do think that not much is going to change if he's healthy this coming season. Maybe I could have went with Tua there or like a Richardson for the upside. That's something I would potentially change. Then I need to go Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Maybe not, but now I won't take a quarterback the rest of the draft here. Unless it's like one of the final rounds and somebody's sitting there that I'm like, hey, you know what? Give me one decent week out of Baker Mayfield or something like that. DJ Moore, my guy's sitting there. There goes Aaron Jones. I feel like there's still a lot of potential at the running back position. I've been going into drafts now that like Zeke and Fournette and Dalvin are, not signed. I've been going into drafts and trying to grab 2 out of 3 of those guys late. Dalvin, I think, goes a ways before both of those guys, but the minute one of those guys lands, and I don't care where they land, their ADP is going to change. Ayuk is a guy I've been kind of caving into a little bit. Pittman, I think, has the potential to finally see some upside in his quarterback play. I think Richardson, there's a lot of question marks, but also at the same time, there's the optimism that, he can produce better than Matt Ryan did and Carson Wentz did and these other guys. Chris Godwin, I think people are out on, but I've spoken on the low average depth of his targets and the ability to produce after the catch. So that's better, and easier for a quarterback to deal with. Man, I could have went Darren Waller right there. The Kelsey pick is one I'm really reflecting on. I like DeAndre Swift and Sanders. Sanders is coming into a Carolina situation where Deonta Foreman and Christian McCaffrey and his time there both vacated plenty of touches. Dalvin's there. James Conner can give us a few good weeks. Let's grab some wide receivers, though. I think I'm going to go wide receiver here. I like Deontay Johnson just because he always earns targets, and I think that's slept on. I'm going to go, and it's very risky with both. It's risky with both, but Chris Godwin after the catch has been great. Just get the ball in his hands, Baker. Now we're going Pittman, Deontay Johnson. There's other guys that are younger down the list. Or do I grab another running back here? I think I'm gonna go Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman, just the clear alpha, similar to Deontay Johnson, but I think there might be more upside in the touchdown potential if Richardson's clicking. A lot of people have been debating this offseason, kind of, Josh Downs or Alec Pierce. What about the tight end? Could he be sneaky? I think it's Michael Pittman, and then it's going to be guys fighting for the secondary looks. Nobody's really going to contest Michael Pittman for that wide receiver 1 role. So I feel like I'm okay with that right there. Wide receiver. I think my lineup, in all honesty, just has a lot of risk right now. A lot of risk grabbing those 2 rookie quarterbacks, a lot of risk in Chris Godwin with Baker Mayfield, a lot of risk in Michael Pittman with Anthony Richardson. But I feel like when it comes to best ball, if we can capitalize late on some upside picks, then these risky guys can truly pay off. And I have a dynasty roster right now that has so much risk, and it's made me nervous. I've got like Hollywood Brown and Michael Pittman and Jerry Jeudy. Well, I'm all in on Jerry Jeudy, so I'm not as concerned about that one. But it's got a decent amount of wide receivers that are middle round sort of wide receivers that have the potential to really take off, but there's a lot of asterisks and question marks kind of surrounding them, and guys are going to hit or they're not. Lockett, there goes Waller, Lockett, Garoppolo, Addison. Addison was my wide receiver 2 before the draft. He is still my wide receiver 2 after the draft. I know a lot of people really like Quentin Johnston and his long-term tie to Justin Herbert, especially with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, perceived to be like 50 years old apiece. And I think that's fair. I think that's valid. I think there's a lot of upside with Justin Herbert, who's thrown the ball the second most amount of times back-to-back seasons. But I think talent-wise, I think Jordan Addison is a different talent. I think he's shown us a major college season. It was at Pitt. I know it was different than what he did at USC, his final season. But Jordan Addison won the Receiver of the Year award that junior year over JSN. Him and JSN had massive seasons in 2021, and they both kind of went backwards a little bit statistically. But I think you got to respect a guy who has shown you, I can handle the volume. Give me the volume. I can make plays game to game at the college level against decent competition. In those seasons we've seen out of guys, it could just be one season. We've seen one huge college season out of a lot of these wide receivers now that we value highly in Dynasty. And Kirk Cousins last season threw the ball at a very high rate. I think the 5th most passing attempts. I think I got no notes in front of me. That was good. And Kirk Cousins was good last year. And I know TJ Hawkinson is there, and he demanded tons of targets upon entering Minnesota. But I think Jordan Addison's set up to potentially have a pretty significant role. There goes Quentin Johnston. I'm surprised he didn't go earlier, because I feel like a lot of people are optimistic that maybe it's towards the end of the season, but he can have some really big splash games. George Pickens screams best ball. He screams potential inconsistency though at the same time, but that's what best ball is for. I mean, we're in the 9th round, so you're not, come double-digit rounds, you're not expecting wide receivers to pop off for 100 yards every single week. Now we're looking at guys like George Pickens and Quentin Johnston and Gabe Davis, who will have those big games, but maybe maybe it's every third week or something like that, but that's okay for best ball purposes. Pat Fryermuth's a huge target of mine. Same with David Njoku. I think I like Pat Fryermuth better though. Got Flowers down the list. We got some good values here, so I'm not as like concerned. Trey Lance, if he hits, could be a good pick, but so many question marks there. And now we're looking at pretty much nobody here. Baker Mayfield. It's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I guess. Now we're on the clock. Man, do I just go Dalvin Cook, James Cook? Probably not. I'm going to go, man, I really like Antonio Gibson too. Wide receiver wise, I feel like a lot of these picks are going to get roasted at some point. I'm going to go with Dalvin because I think wherever he goes, he's going to touch the ball a lot still. That's a risky pick. I understand that. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to go interesting here and fade wide receiver a little bit more. Then I'm going to go Antonio Gibson, who I think can thrive with Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator. I know a lot of people have been talking about it. It seems like a broken record at this point, but I believe in it. He had 46 catches last season. He is the most dynamic playmaker on the roster for the running back position. I'm buying into Gibson more than I ever have. And I think it's the hope of the McKinnon role. If Eric Bieniemy can bring that over to Washington. I know Ron Rivera probably still likes Brian Robinson, but you got not a rookie, but you got a first-year starting quarterback in Sam Howell as well. I think drawing up plays to Gibson could be something that gives Howell a little bit of a cushion. And he can be a bit mobile too. So if he's mobile, scrams out of some plays, dumps it off to Antonio Gibson, then I think that we're good there. So roster-wise, Deshaun Watson, Travis Kelce, Devonta Smith, Saquon Barkley. And then we took the two rookie quarterbacks, Young and Stroud, Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, Dalvin Cook, and Antonio Gibson. Again, super, super risky roster at the end of the day, but we'll see how we do in these later rounds. These later rounds is what's going to really make or break teams. And I still think there's a lot of value left. Running back wise, scrolling down. I mean, Alvin Kamara, we don't know what's going on. Is he going to be suspended 1 week, 0 weeks, the season? We're not sure. P. Ryan, people like because Javonte Williams, the news doesn't look great there. Don't be surprised if they sign like a Zeke or something like that. Damian Harris, I'm going to talk about in my redraft guide, is a sleeper just because he 2021 scored 15 touchdowns and now he's on one of the best offenses in the NFL. Like, say what you want about James Cook, but we're not banking on James Cook to be a monster at the goal line. I think Damian Harris might be, and Josh Allen's going to take away some of that, but it is what it is. Then we got a lot of handcuffs later. So a lot of handcuffs. Chicago's backfield's wide open. You got some guys in Miami, Tank Bigsby with ETN. Just going to be taking some shots later on. Michael Thomas, that's too risky. Cortland Sutton. Juju, I said before, is going to be like this year's Deontay Johnson from last year, like tons of targets, but probably not going to score a lot of touchdowns and be super, super fantasy relevant. The receiving yards might not be what you want it to be. Go all the way down. We're getting into the rookie territory. It's almost like, do we grab another tight end? I don't know. Maybe not in this format. Juju just went and Njoku just went. Jameson Williams, I feel like if you're deep at wide receiver, that's a good best ball target. If you're deep, you're taking, you're literally removing 6 games away from what your team would be scoring. I think Zay Flowers at 10-9 is a pretty good value, especially seeing the gap between Zay Flowers and Addison and Johnston. And he went after Rashad Bateman, which I think is interesting because I could be wrong, but isn't Bateman banged up right now? I feel like he might be. And Zay Flowers, I think, has an opportunity to be used creatively. I think if If you want to debate who will get more targets if both guys are completely healthy between Bateman and Flowers, that's fair. If you want to debate, though, how can guys be if you want to debate, though, about usage, I think Flowers can be utilized in a much different way than Bateman. Freiermuth, I love Pat Freiermuth. I feel like he doesn't get the respect he deserves. He went backwards in touchdowns because the entire Pittsburgh offense went backwards in touchdowns. But at the same time, he went up in receiving yards. He went up in yards after the catch. He went up in targets. Let's see what we got here. Oh, God, it's gross right now. It is truly gross at this point. I feel like we got to take shots on wide receivers, though. It's not going to come back to me for a while, so I feel like ADP just is out the door at this point. Tight end, we got Kelsey. We don't need another tight end. Let's go. Ooh, with 2 seconds to spare. Nico Collins, potential to be the Houston wide receiver 1. Let's go. You know what? For the hell of it, we got Kelsey. And let's go with another rookie on our team. Let's go with Dalton Kincaid. Let's go with the chance that he becomes a threat in the end zone, even though I feel like Dawson Knox can kind of snipe away some of that. But they drafted him in the first round. Gabe Davis, I'm not a fan. I think he is starting to get to the point where he's being a little bit disrespected, though, for where he goes in drafts. I was totally out on the hype of Gabe Davis because he was going too high. But, most of the time you're in or out on a player, it's due to cost. And for redraft, that means draft capital. Where are they, they going? Do I think Gabe Davis can be a top 20 wide receiver? No, absolutely not. But if he's being drafted as wide receiver, I have no idea, wherever he just was, 35 or something like that, maybe it's starting to get into that territory where, hey, I'm not really into him. I'm not sure he's as talented as people are thinking, but Josh Allen, deep plays, receiving yard upside, touchdown scoring. Maybe it's not there every week, but maybe if I flex him on a week I'm chasing a matchup for redraft, then it's worthwhile. So it's important to say, you're in or out on certain guys, but always make sure that you factor in what's the cost of those guys. Maybe I don't like George Pickens, but maybe he's going super late in my drafts. And now I do like him because he's going super late in my draft. So a lot of it comes down to draft capital at the end of the day. And at what position are you taking that player? A chain could be a hit or miss pick. Same with Kendre Miller. Those are two guys that are going very, very close together in rookie drafts. And people are very optimistic for them. That's interesting to see. Mention Kendre Miller, and there goes Jamal Williams. But there's huge question marks, with Miami. Mostert and Jeff Wilson. Does somebody come in there? Does a Zeke or does a Dalvin Cook or a Fournette come in there? Then you look at New Orleans and you say, hey, Alvin Kamara, is he suspended? Jamal Williams just scored 1,000 touchdowns last season. Is he going to have a big role? It's up for grabs for sure at the end of the day. And late, I guess you're taking shots on everybody at this point. But I think you also got to weigh out now at this point of the draft. We made bigger moves earlier. Who can give me 20 points twice? The deeper you get into it, who's the guy that can give me 20 points, 2 or 3 times? Is it, for instance, Darnell Mooney? I'm not as in as maybe I once was, but he's a guy that can stretch the field. Can he give me a 20-point week when, one of my other wide receivers I invested early in doesn't? I think that's just kind of where we're at when it comes to drafting. Really, really would like to do this again. Probably, as soon as Thursday, maybe. Especially because I think this one draft I learned plenty about where guys are going, and it's way different than the draft I did last week. Obviously, just because of the quarterback factor. A lot of people like Jalen Warren. I think he's completely overhyped. Najee Harris touches the ball far too much and sees very consistent snap share. And you can say what you want about his consistency his efficiency, Warren, and he looks jacked this offseason. But if he was to get the full workload in Pittsburgh, I still don't think he's going to have tons of upside. And people, somebody made a comment, we're fading guys that are an injury away or something like that. Like, I mean, you got to pick and choose your handcuffs. So you're taking Warren. Would you rather have Warren or Tyler Algier? I think I'd rather have Tyler Algier in the Falcons offense. Warren or Devin Singletary, who we've seen some pretty decent days out of. Probably Devin Singletary. Wide receiver wise, Mingo can have a big role. Adam Thielen. I like Chark and I like Jaden Reed. And I'm going to take literally those two guys at these two picks. I'm fading ADP. Jacoby Myers is up there. He's been good at earning targets in New England, is like the only guy breathing there back when he was there. Now he's in Las Vegas with Jimmy Garoppolo and Devonta Adams. I'm not sure he has the upside that would maybe be a difference maker in this sort of format. So I'm fading ADP completely here by a lot. And I don't really mind because I want to make sure that, I'm at back-to-back picks here. It's going to be a long time before it comes back to me. DJ Chark showed us receiving yard upside last season. He had a couple games above 90 receiving yards. He's had a season under his belt above 1,000 receiving yards. Adam Thielen's like 47 years old. Mingo, I wasn't super high on as a prospect. Maybe I'm wrong there. But DJ Chark, I think, has got as big of an opportunity as the rest of these guys. And Jaden Reed is my guy of this class that is not an obvious pick. I think Jaden Reed is going to play in the slot for Green Bay and Jordan Love, and he's going to maybe float around the outside a little bit. Christian Watson is not a super volume-based wide receiver as far as his prospect level goes. So maybe that's a wrong strategy, but I don't think, I'm comfortable waiting another round for both of those guys, because when I'm making right now my draft guide and I'm saying, in my draft guide, DJ Chark and Jaden Reed are sleepers, why do I need to take Michael Gallup right here? Why do I need to, for the wide receiver position, why do I want to take KJ Osborne over one of those guys? So ADP is important to a degree to give you a sense of where guys are going, but also like, don't go and take KJ Osborne just because he's 20 spots ahead of Jaden Reed or DJ Chark. If you truly believe there's going to be a huge difference, this coming season in those guys. Mingo. Maybe it's Mingo. I went and took Chark. People are probably like, dude, you didn't take the rookie that they picked. Maybe it's Mingo at the end of the day. Thielen's sitting right there as well. I'm waiting to get to that point where I can take the old running backs because I think they're going to be good values right now at this time when they don't have homes. But again, the team, Deshaun Watson, Travis Kelce, Devonta Smith, Saquon Barkley, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, Dalvin Cook, Antonio Gibson, Nico Collins, Dalton Kincaid. That's a sketchy one, but we'll see. DJ Chark, Jaden Reed. So how many picks we got left? Got a handful. As soon as my wife and son get here, then I got to dip out of this. But we're almost 40 minutes in. We'll see. All right. Who else just went? Dalton Schultz, another veteran tight end that has the opportunity to be the number one target. And that's spicy. That is spicy. But when we're looking at somebody to be a consistent outlet for a rookie quarterback, Schultz might be that guy. I made earlier today. It didn't do super hot, but I'm just going to pump out content regardless if it does well or not because I'm putting my name on it, so I believe in what I'm putting out there. But that was a little thread I had today was the quarterback, tight end, best ball stacks, and I thought at value, so guys that are going late. So I'm not going to say Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, but I said Dalton Schultz paired with C.J. Stroud at cost might be decent, especially if he's the number 1 or number 2 target in that offense. It's possible. I'm not going to completely bank on it. But when we look at Houston, is it Nico Collins? Is it John Mechie? You just go down the list of these wide receivers. Is it Tank Dell? Is it Robert Woods? It's possible it could be any of those guys. Nine picks away. Tyler Algier goes. Tyquan Thornton. They invested last year, right? A second round pick. Am I right on that? Let's see. This is what Google does. First time I'm Googling anything. 50th. Yeah. I've said it so many times that it was a second round pick, but sometimes you question it just because you're like Tyquan Thornton, major speed. Maybe it works out well for best ball. But another wide receiver room wide open for roles when it comes to New England. Some rumblings of D-Hop, but I'm waiting to see where he ends up going. He was very, very good last year with Kyler Murray. I would think you want to go to contender. Some people would say he just wants money. Up for grabs. I would think he'd want to go to a contender. And Buffalo just makes too much sense, which means it's probably not going to happen. Darnell Mooney, 15th round. I think when we look at Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool, part of me wants to prefer Chase Claypool because we've seen more out of Claypool in more than one season. But Darnell Mooney offers what you're looking for in best ball. Some splash plays, big receiving yard days. He's had a good season before. We'll see. All right. So you don't need a tight end. We're done with that. Wide receivers. Adam Thielen, Alec Pierce, Marvin Mims. Donovan Peoples-Jones might be a decent best ball. Wide receiver is gross. I think I'm going to go with my veteran running backs at this point with Ezekiel Elliott. I think we can really just throw a dart at the wide receiver position now. Let's go really, give me 2 good games out of Hyatt. Really, really risky there. He had a phenomenal season last year, though, at Tennessee. Put up really big receiving yard numbers. Darius Slayton might be the better downfield threat. Maybe he's learning from Darius Slayton for a year. But I think, again, late we go for upside. All right. So probably going to close this up, but I will say a couple of different things, and then I'll be done here, and I'll do the rest on my phone. Going to probably take Fournette. Guy's done nothing but catch passes and score touchdowns, obviously in a system that boosted him to do that or allowed him to do that. Probably going to go him late. Reflecting Kelce at that spot instead of going quarterback. Maybe that's a change I make, but I still believe that Kelce's worth the pick just based off of what he did last season and not adding much competition and still going to be himself. He didn't take a step backwards. He was awesome last year. Looking at the rest of my team, Deshaun Watson, I'm really high on. I'm really happy about that pick. I was just shy of getting Trevor Lawrence, I think, in him. Devonta Smith, 3rd round as my first wide receiver. I think I'm fine with that, though. I think he has the ability to be a top 12 guy again. Saquon Barkley, who, hot take, again, I ranked RB1. Young and Stroud, a little risky there, but if one or both hits, then I think we're okay. Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, Dalvin Cook, Antonio Gibson, Nico Collins, Dalton Kincaid, DJ Chark, Jaden Reed, Zeke, Hyatt. So a lot of risk on my roster. And I'll probably do, for this super flex, I'll probably do 2 more, just in all honesty. I know some guys try to do like 10 or whatever the limit is. I don't know what the limit is. I'll probably do like 2 more. And I feel like come the second and third one, I'm really going to have a pretty good sense of where guys are going and how to attack it in a different way than I did this time. But I feel like I have a lot of risk on this roster, but I think risks in a format like this where we have thousands of lineups is something you have to take at the end of the day, and it's $4, so it's worth throwing the dart on certain guys and things to work out. But thank you guys for tuning in. I've been working my ass off on that redraft guide. It's going to be over 100 pages without a doubt. Exclusive in the Patreon. So go to my Twitter profile in the bio, patreon.com/P2W fantasy. Tons of content in various tabs in the Discord. And then people are nonstop talking in there. We're sharing teams. We're talking strategy. We're talking trades. It's a good spot to be if, again, tagline, if you do play to win. Have a good night, guys.